works. Next we have Congressman Kevin Brady, another longtime member of Congress from Texas. Congressman Brady is the senior member of the Tax Writing House and Ways and Means Committee, chairman of the Trade Subcommittee, and vice chairman of the top Republican on the Joint Economic Committee. Congressman Brady has used his leadership position over the past year to fight for more American-made energy jobs, and obviously will be a key player on any tax reform effort that happens in Congress after the election. With that, Congressman Brady, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having me here today and for making the case on how important energy production here in America can help make us more competitive, not just lowering the prices of a lot of consumer goods for families, but also driving a more competitive manufacturing industry and making U.S. competitive as well. I had, doing my homework last night, reading through our remarks and notes for today, I wanted to make the case that David has what a critical role energy production means for Texas, with nearly 2 million jobs tied to energy production. But as I was looking at the predictions going forward, I realized I had 3 different super predictions about what the potential is for more job creation in Texas as a result of the new technologies in 3D seismic surveying and horizontal drilling, in multi-stage fracking. All that is just game-changing for America and game-changing for Texas if it's allowed to happen. And think about not only America being the largest oil producer in the world within a year, but becoming the largest energy producer on the globe, and North America being self-sufficient in energy is a game changer. Imagine Senator Kip Everett, my good friend, can you imagine our kids not having to grow up worrying about what OPEC will do, not worrying about Venezuela's view of America, but actually controlling our own future? It is just remarkable. If we allow it to happen, if Washington doesn't throw up the obstacles to allow this game-changing environment to go forward, I can tell you from the Ways and Means Committee that over the last 4 years, we've seen I've never seen the attack on oil, gas, and coal ever before. And it is real. The obstacles we're seeing is what you know well in permitting, in regulation. What I see a great deal of attack is in the tax code. And you hear this as a steady drumbeat that we need to raise taxes on energy companies in America who are not paying their fair share. But the truth of the matter is that other than the taxes you and I pay as families, the industry that writes the next biggest check to the federal government is the energy industry. And yet we are leaving even more potential revenue on the table, $80 to $100 billion that could help get us back to a balanced budget, because we've not fully allowed our energy workers to get fully back to work and to do the work and reach the potential we're capable of. In the President's budget, in proposals before Ways and Means, there is a full-throated effort to single out the energy industry for additional taxation, not just the majors, but the independents as well, in a major way. The President has identified about between 41, and if you count our international tax provisions that affect energy as well, $81 billion of tax increases on majors in our independents. As a result, if those were allowed to go forward, Jim Rich, we would see drilling, especially among independents, be reduced fully by a third. We anticipate a loss of 300,000 jobs among independent companies as a result of those tax increases, and our companies would be less competitive as we compete around the world, especially against state-owned energy enterprises, which is what our global competition is. The areas that they are focusing on make no sense. A number of years ago, the way we treated research and development, G&G research before you drilled and explored was, it used to be that if you drilled a dry well, you could write off all the G&G research that went before it. But if you drilled a successful one, you could not. So we are actually rewarding people when they didn't strike pay dirt. We changed that to encourage companies to do more of the research ahead of time, so they would drill fewer wells on smaller footprints, but be more accurate when they do that. Made perfect sense. The White House and many in Congress, unfortunately, want to reverse those incentives, which again makes no sense. Intangible drilling costs, which is very much, which is similar to the expensing treatment in agriculture and other mining. The White House has targeted that for a major tax increase. That's probably would be the single most damaging impact on our ability to produce here in America into expense as in energy as we do in so many other parts of our industry. These tax treatments go back to 1940. They've been a traditional way that we raise capital, invest, and expense in the energy industry. It makes no sense to target, single out our industry in a way that actually reduces American-made production. In the third example, in one of the most egregious, is that in 2004, the Ways and Means Committee that I serve on, concerned about the number of jobs being shipped overseas, we changed the tax code. In essence, we said if you manufacture here in America, if you produce here in America, if you invent here in America, you have a lower tax rate than if you do the same thing overseas, encouraging those activities to occur in America. But the president has singled out one industry, energy, and has said, but not for you. When you manufacture in America, when you produce here, when you invent and invest in America, we want to tax you as if you were doing the same thing overseas. So in effect, you encourage companies to ship jobs overseas, to make those investments elsewhere. Again, it makes no sense for a country that has the job potential, the energy potential, and the ability to provide so much, meet so much of our future demand to do exactly that. In Congress, supporters of these tax increases have made this a priority. Earlier this year, I was the only Texan who served on the negotiating committee to resolve the payroll tax unemployment issues earlier this year. And I'll tell you, in the House, every proposal we sent to the Senate, whether it dealt with how we pay our physicians in Medicare, how we phase out unemployment in states that are recovering, or how we deal with the payroll tax holiday itself, every proposal we sent to the Senate came back with higher taxes on American energy included in it. And within Ways and Means Committee, this has been an ongoing fight that we've had for a number of years. We have so far successfully stopped those tax increases, but it is not going away, and it will have a significant impact on our ability to develop here. I think, and the Ways and Means Committee thinks, that the ultimate answer is to fundamentally reform our tax code, to make us more competitive internationally as we compete. As you know, we've gone from first to worst in tax rates among our global competitors, and they've ripped a page from our playbook on lower taxes and reasonable, balanced regulation and skilled workforce, and are beating us about the head with it. We need to get back into the game with its competitive tax code. And here at home, our code has become a drag on our economy, a drag on our productivity in America. And every one of you here today can probably tell me a horror story of how many resources you've now diverted to dealing with the tax code, and sometimes making economic decisions based on tax provisions rather than on the underlying fundamentals of the project ahead of you. It's time to change that. And so what we're proposing is a tax rate for both businesses and families no higher than 25%. One that simplifies dramatically the code that we have today, where we rather than double taxing our companies when they compete around the world, we have a territorial system that allows us to compete around the world. And when our Texas and American companies compete and win around the world and create profits as a result of it, we eliminate the tax today that stands in place for American companies to bring those profits home and invest them in manufacturing and R&D and production here in the United States, which is the case today. It makes no sense that right now we're one of the few countries left that actually does that. We erect a barrier so that when you create profits overseas, we erect a tax barrier for bringing those dollars home. We have almost $2 trillion of stranded profits overseas. We need to permanently lower that gate, allow that money to be reinvested here in America, and encourage our Texas and energy companies and American companies to be out there competing for those sales. All that ties into fundamental reform. Within that, I don't have a magic bullet tax rate that makes us the most competitive in the world. I think we have to be very careful about creating a pro-growth tax code that recognizes the cost of capital matters in every industry, including energy. That's something that, again, is part of the attack on energy up in Washington, and frankly, an issue we devote almost every day to in Congress.